Good evening. We're in the UN to cover the conference on China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and its exploitative nature.
Win-win development in both countries, I think the Pakistani establishment might have overlooked the basic rights of the local population on the natural resources and to subsist from these resources. Pakistan's leaders have projected that the CPAC will provide the much needed boost to the economy, especially that of the underdeveloped areas like ZB and also Chinese companies working on the CPAC project may source their raw material, spares and other supplies from Chinese companies rather than local Pakistani companies. Here again, there may be no benefits from the project for Pakistani people. I'm afraid I'd invite you to double check that the CPAC has become more of a project championed by the Pakistani government to divert the public attention from the failures in all other areas and from the human rights violation being conducted by the security agencies. Earlier Chinese investments in infrastructure projects like the Karakoram Highway or the first phase of Gwadar port gave virtually no economic benefits, no real economic benefits to the local people. Well, today I ask myself and I ask you, how can we make sure this time is different? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for your intervention, Mr. Shirio. I think that this was a very clear presentation of the issues that are at stake with this corridor. The issue of the economic impact on the local populations. I do not know if any of you want to raise any issue, if you want to raise any question, just in the minutes that we have before member of the European Parliament, Chirio, will leave us. If you do not have any other questions, just let me remind you that the Chinese-Pakistan Economic Corridor is perhaps the most well-known or the most spoken of the initiatives that have been launched 3 years ago by China called One Belt, One Road. These initiatives are going in several directions, are involving a lot of economic resources, and personally I do think on the whole they can make an important impact for the opening of economies and development, but in this economic corridor we have problems that, as member of the European Parliament Alberto Cirio already focused on, that we know already from the Karakoram Highway and also from the Gwadar port. These are projects that are touching very sensible areas. In one side we have Gilgit-Baltistan, who is disputed territory. Actually, it is considered as such both by India and Pakistan, and therefore it is whatever big economic project that is being there without the consensus of the countries that are exactly disputing this territory is not a good contribution for global understanding, but quite on the contrary. Well, and secondly, there is a big problem of the representation of the local populations. The local populations of Gilgit and Baltistan are not, they are very specific. There are several groups. It's a very complex area, but they have their identity in a very clear and marked way, and they have not been at all represented in this project. Their interests, their views, their perspectives are not taken into consideration. Regarding Balochistan, on the other side of the corridor, the issue is even more important because Balochistan was actually occupied by Pakistan after its independence, and the issue was never settled. The local population never accepted it. There were several uprisings against the occupation. There is an ongoing civil war with a tremendous repression that has been developed by the Pakistani authorities. And in the Gwadar port, what we see is that the access of the Baluchi population itself, it's restricted. And most of the people that are working on it has nothing to do with Balochistan and with Baluchs. The whole of the project is militarized in an area that unfortunately is witnessing increasing tensions. So this is the basic description of the issue. We had the opportunity of hearing Mr. Alberto Cirio. We are very thankful for his contribution. I think that whenever he feels that he has to go, he is entitled to go. And we could pursue now the conference with the two other speakers. We have with us Mr. Junaid Quraishi, who is a human rights activist and author that has been dealing with this issue for quite some time and has publications on it, and that will certainly address you explaining his points of view. And we have with us, we have the honor of having with us Mr. Miran Baluch, who is the Baluch representative at the United Nations and the European Union. He has been a long-standing representative of the Baluchi people. We have known each other actually in different capacities and circumstances, as we were just saying before coming to the room, for already 10 years. We met the first time in London, the first time I was in a meeting on Balochistan. He is, to a large extent, the face of Balochistan that we are accustomed to see in the United Nations and European, well, and now with the Brexit, also the British institutions, and we are very pleased that he could make it. We will, at first, give the floor to Mr. Quraishi, and after we will have Mr. Baluch, and then a discussion and some concluding remarks. Please, Mr. Quraishi, the floor is yours.
This is about the China-Pakistan economic corridor, and I understand that I've been invited to speak on the said topic. Before starting my speech on the topic, I feel obliged to mention here that there is a lot of hue and cry about the current situation in the Kashmir Valley. The violence is deplorable, and I mourn the loss of lives there. I condemn and oppose any kind of violence from any quarter and hope that peace will prevail soon. Coming back to the topic of this conference, contrary to other Kashmiris, let me make it clear that for me, the state of Jammu and Kashmir comprises much more than the Kashmir Valley only. I am here as a representative of the whole state of Jammu and Kashmir, a state which belongs to all state subjects, irrespective of their religion, caste, creed or color. A state which is equally mine as it is of the Dogras, the Kashmiri Pandits, the Bakarwals, the Dards, the Baltis, the Ladakhis, the Pushwaris, the Gujars, and all other ethnicities. My analysis of the China-Pakistan economic corridor will be purely from the perspective of a proud and nationalist state subject of the whole of state of Jammu and Kashmir, stretching from Dharpur to Damchok and from Lakhanpur to Gilgit. I will also try to elaborate the effects of this new corridor on the people of Gilgit-Baltistan and on the future of the wider Kashmir issue. I would like to emphasize that I am not averse to economic development, solution to Pakistan's growing economic crisis, or the eradication of poverty. I welcome that and wholeheartedly wish that the friendship of China and Pakistan will flourish into eternity. As you all might be aware, China's presence in Gilgit-Baltistan is an extension of its ambitions of reconstructing the ancient Silk Route. The construction of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, also abbreviated as CPEC, at a cost of $46 billion, is an important pawn in this new great game. I, as a Kashmiri, have my strongest reservations regarding this new economic corridor, the origins of which can be traced back to the border agreement of 1963, in which Pakistan ceded more than 5,000 square miles of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir to China. Part of this 3,000-kilometer long network of roads, railways and pipelines will pass through Gilgit-Baltistan, which does not fall within the jurisdiction of the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Since 1947, the region has been treated as a disputed territory. Formerly known as the northern areas of Pakistan, it is the northernmost administrative territory of Pakistan. Although administered by Pakistan, Gilgit-Baltistan is an elemental part of the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir. The region, together with Pakistan-administrated Jammu and Kashmir, so-called Azad Kashmir, Aksai Chin, Shaksam Valley, under Chinese occupation, and Indian-administrated Jammu and Kashmir is an integral part of the Kashmir issue, which is disputed between India, China, and Pakistan. It covers an area of almost 30,000 square miles and is highly mountainous. The estimated population is around 2 million original inhabitants. The abolishment of the state subject rule in 1974 by the government of Pakistan has, however, resulted in large-scale demographic changes in the region. While administratively controlled by Pakistan since the First Kashmir War, Gilgit-Baltistan has never been formally integrated into the Pakistani state and does not participate in Pakistan's constitutional political affairs. In 2009, the Gilgit-Baltistan Empowerment and Self-Governance Order was passed by the Pakistani cabinet and later signed by the then Pakistani President Asif Ali Zardari. The order granted self-rule to the people of Gilgit-Baltistan by creating, among other things, an elected Gilgit-Baltistan Legislative Assembly and Gilgit-Baltistan Council. Gilgit-Baltistan thus gained a de facto province-like status without constitutionally becoming part of Pakistan. Officially, Pakistan claims that it cannot integrate Gilgit-Baltistan into Pakistan, as that would prejudice its international obligations with regard to the Kashmir conflict. It has, however, become imperative for China that Gilgit-Baltistan has a political status within Pakistan. From Beijing's point of view, a political status for Gilgit-Baltistan would address the domestic concerns of the local people from being exploited by Islamabad and externally the Indian objectives. In this backdrop, a high-level committee has been formed by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, which is contemplating to elevate the constitutional status of Gilgit-Baltistan in a bid to provide legal cover to the multi-billion-dollar Chinese investment plan. The proposal would see the mountainous region of Gilgit-Baltistan for the first time in the country's constitution, bringing it one step closer to being fully absorbed as an additional province of Pakistan. The move signals a historic shift in the country's position on the future of the wider Kashmir issue. Internationally, Pakistan has always insisted, yet not practiced, that the parts of Jammu and Kashmir it controls are semi-autonomous and have therefore not been formally integrated into the country, in line with its claimed position that a referendum should be carried out across the whole of the region. In addition to being named in the constitution Gilgit-Baltistan would also send 2 lawmakers to sit in the federal parliament, though they would be given observer status only. Hence, Pakistan's move to illegally annex Gilgit-Baltistan change the fundamentals of the actual Kashmir issue and cement China's stake in this dispute are in response to concerns raised by Beijing. China finds it internationally indefensible to invest billions of dollars on a road that passes through a disputed territory claimed by both India and Pakistan. The actions of Pakistan totally negate the interests of the people of Jammu and Kashmir and their future, while jeopardizing any kind of solution to this long-standing conflict. I firmly believe that after Pakistan's many attempts throughout history to change the demographics of Gilgit-Baltistan and its role in marginalizing the voice of the Kashmiri people on international platforms like the UN, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is a deliberate attempt to change the constituents of the actual Kashmir issue. If Pakistan imposes its sovereign writ over Gilgit-Baltistan, India will then have a political and moral right to fully integrate Jammu and Kashmir into India and scrap Article 370 of its constitution, which gives Jammu and Kashmir a special status. Any kind of solution to the long-standing Kashmir issue will only be jeopardized by these kind of intrusions. China is not investing billions of dollars to simply withdraw if any solution is found to the Kashmir issue. China's heavy investment in the disputed region is not speculative. It is a calculated investment to bolster her strategic interests in the region. The corridor plans have been strongly opposed by people living in Gilgit-Baltistan and the rest of Jammu and Kashmir. The much publicized CPEC may benefit Pakistan and in particular its Punjab province, but it will render more than 10,000 people of Gilgit-Baltistan jobless once the existing dry port is relocated from Sost in Gilgit-Baltistan to Havelian in Pakistan. According to the local population and international observers, the region is deprived of all fundamental human and civil rights, and it has no representation in the National Assembly of Pakistan or any other national legislative body. They believe that China is busy digging more than 22 tunnels in Gilgit-Baltistan for deployment of missiles, while other areas in Gilgit-Baltistan are explored for natural mineral deposits, especially gold resources. The local owners of these lands are barred from going to these areas. The people of Gilgit-Baltistan have no say over their national resources and minerals. All decision-making powers in relation to forest, power, tourism, and minerals are under the direct control of the Gilgit-Baltistan Council, which is headed by the Prime Minister of Pakistan. All the mining licenses are also directly issued by Islamabad. From day one, the federal government of Pakistan has never bothered to invite Gilgit-Baltistan officials to any national level meeting on the construction of this corridor. Since the people of Gilgit-Baltistan, through whose territory the corridor passes, have had no say in CPEC projects, it means that Pakistan has virtually sold out the territory to China under the rubric of infrastructure development. The region is completely excluded from the high financial profits that a project like CPEC would bring, despite the fact that this corridor would cross the region and produce a number of negative environmental and ecological impacts. Gilgit-Baltistan is already facing serious environmental problems in relation to climate change because of air and water pollution, inadequate waste disposal, natural resources depletion, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, and glacier melting. There is an abundance of water resources, minerals worth billions of dollars, and an ocean of undiscovered tourism potential in this part of Jammu and Kashmir. Gilgit-Baltistan has notable reserves of copper, coal, iron, silver, and gold, among other metals and minerals. The region is also blessed with considerable reserves of uranium. The factories which will emerge during the construction of this corridor will use all the minerals of Gilgit-Baltistan as raw material, for which the population will not be paid royalty. There are at least 5,000 glaciers, including 3 of the largest in the world, outside of the polar regions in Gilgit-Baltistan. It has almost 2,500 glacial lakes. The potential of power is 52,000 megawatt, while the requirement of the indigenous population is just 150 megawatt. Researchers have already concluded that the current rise of temperature will dry up the glaciers in the Karakoram and Himalayan region within a century. Toxic gases by heavy traffic flow and construction works related to the establishment of this corridor will only accelerate the melting of the world's largest reservoir of freshwater glaciers. The Lawyers Foundation for Justice in Pakistan filed a petition in April this year in the Lahore High Court through A.K. Dogar, submitting that this project should not be established as it would create environmental problems in the region. Furthermore, geologists have concluded that erosion and weathering processes, seismic activity, steep terrain, snow melt, rainfall and irrigation for agriculture, and sediments carried by glacial melt into rivers have been the key triggers of the landslide in 2010, which created the Atabat Lake in Hunza area in Gilgit-Baltistan. The landslide swept away hundreds of Gilgit-Baltistan villages, submerging into the Hunza River and leaving over 1,000 people displaced. Inaction of Pakistan to adequately compensate the victims of these calamities caused massive protest by the local population, led by Baba Jan. In August 2011, the police used violent means to crush the uprising and ended up killing two unarmed protesters, namely Afzal Beg and his father. In the aftermath of these brutal murders, Baba Jan organized more protests while demanding impartial investigations into the killings. Baba Jan, along with his fellow activists, was arrested and subjected to inhuman methods of torture before being charged with violating Pakistan's Anti-Terrorism Act. Amusingly, this act, according to Pakistan's own constitution and Supreme Court, has no jurisdiction in Gilgit-Baltistan. After he was granted bail, Baba Jan also protested against the selling off of all the natural resources of the region to Chinese companies and challenged the forcible occupation of 2,800 square miles of the region's landmass by the Chinese, as well as the annexation of Kohistan and Chitral into the Republic of Pakistan. Fearing his victory in the by-elections scheduled for May 2016, which were later delayed to June 2016, the Supreme Appellate Court of Gilgit-Baltistan sentenced Baba Jan and 11 other political activists in June 2016 to a 40-year prison term in a case based on fabricated charges of terrorism. As you can all conclude from the injustice faced by Baba Jan and his associates, China's presence in Gilgit-Baltistan has stayed up more than China and Pakistan would want the world to believe. Human rights violations are the order of the day in the region, while the state of Pakistan keeps operating and unleashing terror with total impunity. The Anti-Terrorism Act is being used to silence voices of justified dissent. Based on firm historical evidence and logically drawn inferences and analysis, I am of the opinion that the construction of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is illegal and in contravention of international law. Gilgit-Baltistan is an integral part of Jammu and Kashmir state, the future status of which still needs to be decided according to the wishes of the people living in Jammu, Ladakh, the Kashmir Valley, Pakistan-administrated Kashmir, and indeed Gilgit-Baltistan. The construction of this corridor, complemented by the military benefits for both China and Pakistan, and an investment of $46 billion, has all the ingredients to exacerbate the complexities of the Kashmir issue, threaten peace, and secure China's strategic interests by allowing it to increase its illegitimate share in Jammu and Kashmir. The people in Gilgit-Baltistan are not in need of economic corridors of exploitation. They have been longing for basic human rights and their political liberties since the last 70 years. No country, not even our so-called elder brother and benefactor, has the liberty to impose economic corridors on us by force. In order to protest against Pakistani attempts to illegally annex Gilgit-Baltistan, China's designs in the region, and to raise awareness regarding the objections of the people of Gilgit-Baltistan in particular, and Jammu and Kashmir in general, I had initiated a signature campaign against the CPAC in major European cities. The signature campaign was held over a period of 5 months in Amsterdam, Brussels, Paris, Vienna, London and Geneva. It managed to secure thousands of signatures and created awareness among the general public in Europe vis-à-vis Kyrgyzstan, CPAC and the Kashmir issue in general. On behalf of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, I would humbly like to invite you all to join me and support me in protesting against the nefarious designs of China and Pakistan. I appeal you to raise your voice, create awareness regarding the human rights violations in Gilgit-Baltistan, and show your support to a just and humanitarian cause. I appeal you to raise your voice against Chinese and Pakistani attempts aimed at the further division of my homeland. I appeal you to stand with me for justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is a victim of violence, is always a cause for all of those who believe in humanity to be sad about that. Nevertheless, I would like to point out two things that I believe are important. Well, the first one is that to artificially change the balance of the population of a native population is something that should not be well seen. We have seen that in the Gilgit-Baltistan part of the former principality of Kashmir, there has been a big influence, like you just said. On the reverse side of the equation in the Kashmiri Valley, we have been seeing a very sad ethnic cleansing of the so-called Pandits, those who do not share a certain religion, and this is really, really something that we should never agree with. Well, and secondly, that in the valley of Kashmir, I was there very recently. We have a lot of youngsters going to the front to find the military forces, and the leaders stay behind, and everybody knows who they are. They have been actually enjoying the protection of the authorities. This, I would say, is exactly the reverse of what we can see in the other side of the corridor, where there are not anymore any leader of an independent Baluch staying in the country, because they have been relentlessly murdered, not only the leaders, but whoever looks like being a civil society spokesperson or symbol of Balochistan. There has been a murdering strategy in Balochistan, a fall of the leadership that is absolutely unacceptable, and it's in complete contrast with what we have seen in the valley. But your principality, it's really very diverse, and it's very good to have this perspective in our debate. And we will now jump to the other side, of the corridor, exactly. Gwadar and the whole of this huge, enormous province of Balochistan. And you have been speaking about your own land for a very long time. You have very clear positions on this. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We're at the mouth of the dragon, they're at the tail of the dragon. That's how they draw the map. In the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is an illegal project and a construction. Before going into detail of this project, we have to look into the legality of CPAC. Balochistan is under Pakistan's occupation. One can only understand Pakistan's position of looting and plundering Balochistan's wealth and resources, but China should act responsibly, because sooner or later, China will also be held accountable for carrying out illegal projects jointly with Pakistan. China should not act so naive that the deployment of tens of thousands of Pakistani soldiers to a project to protect the route makes it very obvious that the project is not being constructed with the consent of the Baloch people. Economic corridors are designed to stimulate economic development and infrastructure, whereas China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC, instead of economic development is leading to death and destruction in the area, and is a tragedy for Balochistan. The Chinese need for security for its personnel due to its $46 billion investment has further jeopardized the Baloch rights. To ensure security for the Chinese, Gwadar is slowly coming under curfew, with plans to impose pass systems which will ensure that even the resident Baloch rights to stay will be curtailed or fully controlled. Let's not be fooled by the economic corridor fairy tale that Pakistan and China tell the world. The primary aim for China is to have a military base in the region, and for Pakistan to further militarize Balochistan. Therefore, the actual aim of CPEC is more strategic and military rather than economic. Pakistan always claims that India is opposed to CPEC. A few years back, Pakistan was drumming that the Gulf countries were against CPEC, and Iran was against CPEC. In my opinion, the international community as a whole and the United Nations should protest and halt the construction of this illegal project called the CPEC. There are a number of illegal mega projects being constructed in Balochistan by Pakistan and China to exploit the resources of Balochistan. For example, Sandak, Rekordik, just to mention a few. Pakistan tried to justify its illegal exploitative projects in Balochistan by saying that the provincial government of Balochistan has consented to these projects. Whereas firstly, the provincial government of Balochistan, nothing more than Pakistan's stooges who have been selected by Pindi, i.e. the Pakistani military and the security agencies. Secondly, Balochistan is not Pakistan's province. Therefore, the whole provincial government gimmick is meaningless. We're not even part of Pakistan. So, Balochistan is occupied territory by Pakistan, and the provincial government is a gimmick, so therefore there's no legal grounds even on false pretense that Pakistan pretends it to be. China is expanding its neo-colonialist designs with the help of Pakistan on Balochistan's expense. Today the world might view this as a Baloch problem, but that's not the case. Due to strategic importance of Balochistan, especially the coastline, the Chinese military projects will have consequences for the world in the future, not only Balochistan. Since Pakistan's construction, I don't call it creation, I call it construction because it was falsely constructed. Since Pakistan's construction in 1947, it has been involved in unlawful activities of all sorts, from occupying Balochistan in 1948, for killing almost 2 million Bangladeshis, raping hundreds of thousands of Bengali women in the 1971 war, hosting heads of terrorist organizations such as Bin Laden and Mullah Umar, trying to destabilize India, to name a few, as well as meddling in Afghanistan's internal politics. We have seen the Taliban was a creation of the Pakistani military and the ISI. Yet it always hides behind the shield of sovereignty and territorial integrity, as enshrined in the UN Charter. It's supposed to be a joke, but people in the UN who have seen me here for many years, they'll understand why I'm quoting this. Sovereignty and territorial integrity is enshrined in the UN Charter. I'm saying this as a joke because every time when I make a speech in the forum, they stop my speech and then they say, yes, he's threatening and speaking against our sovereignty and territorial integrity because he's talking about the breakup of Pakistan. I am not talking about the breakup of Pakistan. I'm just talking about the independence of Balochistan. If, as a result, Pakistan breaks, I'm very sad. So I can't help you with that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balu, for your intervention, for presenting the point of view of Balochistan on this issue. I don't know if from the floor any of you want to raise any question. You are very much welcome to do so.
Pakistani administered domination. My basic question is from you, sir. You said that you were in Srinagar and there are young people who are in the streets pelting, stone pelting, and the leaders are sitting behind. I think that is something which is not true. Because now there are 1,300 detentions in Kashmir and all the leaders are arrested, those who lead the all parties who lead conference and else. And the youth, 13,000 are injured by pellets. And more than 500 have lost their eyes, blinded. And 3-4 days back, the High Commissioner for Human Rights in the Human Rights Council said that we want to send fact-finding mission on both sides of line of control. Pakistan agreed that we will welcome these fact-finding missions. And the Indian ambassador in the council rejected all that. And a human rights activist who is president of AFAD in Asia, Mr. Khurram Parvez, was stopped at Delhi airport 5 days back, and 3 days back he was arrested at midnight from his house, and he's a known human rights defender. So my question is that do you support fact-finding missions? Because if I have any reservations, this is the first time that the mechanism has asked for fact-finding, whether that is Gilgit-Baltistan, that is Pakistani administered Kashmir or Indian administered Kashmir. This is the time we should support fact-finding mission on both sides and give them the record of human rights violation on both sides, whether that is CPAC, that is enforced disappearances, whether that is killing. We should support that. We should not oppose this idea of fact-finding mission because India don't like it.
Please.
My name is Gul Sanai and I'm from World Sin Congress. We are UK based and we represent Sin. And I think I agree with Kashmiri, Mr. Qureshi and Madam Baloch that it's CPAC, which is China-Pak Economic Corridor. We believe it's not China-Pak Corridor, it's China-Punjab Economic Corridor. And the same situation is happening in Sindh. They're all, whoever stands against it, and few national groups, they have done demonstration, they have been brutally killed and kidnapped and enforced disappearance. And we think this is a design which is to convert our Sindhi people on their land in the minority. And not only that, but its impact will be severe on the human rights violation, which has just started now. And we believe that this is a devastating design for Sindh, and we stand with our Kashmiri people and our Baloch people, and we will go against, and Sindhi people will not accept this CPAC. Thank you.
Thank you very much for both questions. So should we make the round? No, as I was question. Know very well before the 40 days of continuous fight and in the streets against the authorities, all party Uriat was all out in the open. Some arrests have been done after that, but this was not the situation before, and this has not been the situation over the years. And it is a complete contrast to what you can see in Balochistan or in Gilgit-Baltistan. You just simply cannot compare it. The situations are totally different. No one did change the Valley of Kashmir demography by bringing massive colonization from other areas, but quite on the contrary. That those who would not follow fundamentalist logic, those who had other religion, were ethnically cleansed. And this is absolutely unbearable. Regarding the inquiry committees and all the moves that have to be done, I would just tell you that we should begin by what I consider to be the most important problem, the one that blocks everything else, and this is cross-border terrorism. I would start by investigating the jihadist groups that nurtured in Pakistan have been time and time again conducting terrorist operations in the Indian soil. The last one only a few days ago. This is an enormous problem to South Asia, to all of you who inhabit the region, but also for the world. This is absolutely irresponsible, and this should not be allowed to continue, or we will really risk a tremendous crisis. And this has been my opinion, and this is what I've been saying everywhere. So now for other aspects of the issue, I would pass the floor to Bolsinger.
That I think that in the Kashmir Valley, you at least have the freedom to ask for freedom. There are many groups in the Kashmir Valley who stand for a free Kashmir, who stand for a united Kashmir, who even stand for an Islamized Kashmir. So there is no comparison in pain with pain. The people of Jammu and Kashmir suffer due to the enmity between the two nuclear neighbors. But there is one difference. We don't have Arif Shahids in the Kashmir Valley. In Pakistan administrated Kashmir, as you know, in 2013, Arif Shahid was killed brutally for asking a unified, independent and secular Jammu and Kashmir. Mr. Gilani is alive and he's shouting slogans in Srinagar that we are Pakistanis and Pakistan belongs to us. Now, again, I don't believe in comparing pain with pain, but I would see the result of someone shouting slogans in Muzaffarabad that we are Indians and India is ours. I don't think he would make his home in the evening. So that's a difference. There is a freedom of asking freedom. And although I do not agree with Mr. Gilani or the other Hurriyat representatives, but I will fight for their right to say what they want. And in the same manner, I will fight for the right of all the Kashmiris living in Pakistan administrated Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan to say what they want, and we don't want another Arif Shahid. Thank you.
What about fact-finding?
Thank you very much. Please do not make a dialogue. Now,
Then read the vote.
I see some indirect parallels between the Kashmir issue. I think they're totally different, disconnected. And military intelligence is not crazy. I mean, they're pulling their hair out. They never expected this because they thought only they have the right to cry in the United Nations for the Kashmiris. And then another issue is they always bring up the topic of these pellet guns and people going blind. I really sympathize with you. Have you ever seen F-16s bombarding Kashmir? No. In my country, every day Pakistani F-16s, Cobra helicopters, they're bombarding, they're killing our children, if you see, there is no comparison to human rights violations. We're an occupied country. My country is occupied just the same way Kuwait was occupied by Iraq. There's no difference. The only difference is 70 years has passed. In Great America intervened. But my request to the international community is, we are really suffering, and there is no comparison. I can know what's happening there, but please do not compare, because we are really going through an occupation, and the violations are like a war between two states. F-16s are constantly flying. Our little kids get scared when they hear the helicopter. They think it's a Pakistani military hearing. It's a war zone. And that's where we need a fact-finding mission. If anywhere needs a fact-finding mission, it needs it in Balochistan. Reporters are not allowed. Media is not allowed. Humanitarian workers are not allowed. Earthquake happens, floods happen, Pakistan, we can handle. What do? They send Jamaat down. The bearded guys who come and corrupt your kids into suicide homes. They're sent over there to help in the flood aid or earthquake rescue. And they send the Pakistani military. This is what happened last time when there was an earthquake in our own region. Pakistani military came to ethnically cleanse. So nobody would go there. There's no people Chinese people, they don't want our help. No, no, the young guys come, you catch them, kill them, and throw their body the next day. There's over 5,000-6,000 of our youth have been killed in the last 5 years. Tortured bodies. Only last week, they show people that display that they said these guys belong to some terrorist organization, fine. Well, maybe they do. A week later, the dead bodies are thrown with drills in the head, drills in the heart. They showed it on Pakistan television and the dead bodies. They have full impunity. It's not going to happen for long. And please, support and prayers are needed from the international community to stop this human rights violation. Seriously, it has to end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I don't know if anybody else wants to raise the floor on the issues of the Chinese-Pakistani economic corridor. We had some people coming in the last minutes. Perhaps you have not been, did not have the opportunity of listening to the whole of the discussion. Someone else that would like to, we have roughly 5 minutes. If nobody else wants to raise the floor, a very important and interesting session. I think that we clarified and we went further in the understanding of the issue, further than the economics of the issue. There are very important political issues that can never be forgot when we speak about this corridor. We cannot forget about what is happening all over the region that is covered by this corridor. I think that we had very comprehensive statements from both sides of the corridor. And I am very pleased with the high attendance that we just witnessed. And up to next time, thank you very much for your participation. We will continue to discuss the issue of the region whenever it will be necessary. Thank you very much to all, and most in particular to our member of the European Parliament that had to leave already, Alberto Cirio, and to Mr. Junaid Quraishi, and to Mr. Meran Baluch that have been speaking to us this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.